Oh, this lecture will be going over your thread groove type 2 lathe part. As you first look at the print, there's a lot going on. So you're going to be using type 1 roughing, type 2 roughing. You're going to have a groove cycle and a threading cycle. So just kind of go through the operations here real quick. Let's see what color we're on here. So the G71 or type 1, it's going to basically be this feature all the way across, cut out past. That's going to be your G71. Type 2 then is going to be this feature. That's going to be done with the center tool. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then obviously you're going to have your grooves and then your threads for that down there. Okay. So that's kind of the operations that you're going to have. Okay. Let's talk about the grooves first. Well, no, we won't jump ahead. Let's go talk about doing that type 1 roughing. Now, if you look on your assignment sheet, we have something that's going to be a little bit different. We have to program in our chamfers basically by doing something that they call an automatic chamfer. It's explained in your manual. If I can find it. It's around page 50. Page 51, okay, in your manual. So there's a corner round and an automatic chamfer. We're going to be using the automatic corner rounding in our next assignment, but this one here we're going to be concentrating on the chamfer. So if you notice for the chamfer, we're going to be using I's and K's. Okay, so I'm going to jump right ahead to the example. This is corner rounding, so on page 53, they give an example of doing that automatic chamfering. It actually works pretty slick. So if you notice, to create this chamfer, that first one right there, that is going to be right here. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is get below, and now typically we just went with, they have a 50,000, so we would go to 0.4, but notice that they do go a little bit below that, so you can work your way up to it. So you start at 0.3 in this case. Now notice there is no X and a Z. It's just saying go to X.5, which is our finish diameter, with a K. Okay, so the K is going to be going, we're going to use a K if we're going this way, and the K is going to be negative. Okay, for some reason, if you're cutting a chamfer that way, that would be a K positive. Okay, so that automatically puts that 50,000 chamfer. There is no, on the X, I have to get to my start point, subtract twice on my chamfer. It all does that for you. So there's actually less calculating when it comes to this. Then they go to N10, which is down here. Okay, then line 11 will cut this other chamfer up in here. Okay, so once again, you just have that X.75, which is our finish diameter, and a K of 0.5. Okay, now notice what here on line 12 we're going to get to our next chamfer. And once again, it's just Z negative 1 inch. But now we're doing the I because we're getting positive. If for some reason we would be going down like that, that I would then be a negative for doing the chamfers when you're coming in the inside. Most of the time you're going to be using K and K negative just to put chamfers on. In our part specifically, that's what we're going to be using is K negatives. So that's what you're going to be using to program in this chamfer and this chamfer. Now one thing I do want to make sure I point out, if I can get back to our manual, if you notice this little note here, okay, a G70 and a G73, which is another roughing can cycle, does not recognize automatic chamfer corner rounds. Okay, so basically what that's saying is when it does its roughing passes, it's not going to account for that chamfer. Okay, when you're doing small chamfers, that's not a big deal. But let's say maybe you have a 1/4 inch chamfer. If that was a 1/4 inch, you would not want to use that automatic corner chamfering or the automatic chamfering. You'd want to actually program it in so it roughs that larger chamfer in. 100 thousandths you can get away with. You start getting anything more than that, 150 to 200, I would not recommend using it. But definitely smaller 30 thousandths, and like I said, even at 100 thousandths chamfer, it will have no problem doing it. So just kind of something to keep in mind for future use. Okay, so that'll take care of that type 1. There's coming up all the way across. So you want to go out to maybe 7.7, something like that. Okay, so that'll take care of it. So you have your 2-inch done all the way across. So now that comes in with our type 2 roughing, which we're going to be looking at doing this feature. Okay, doesn't matter which direction we go. Okay, whichever one you want. Just keep in mind the cutter comp. You're going to be using a G41 or a G42. Okay, they both will work, but you have to have the right one according to the direction you're cutting. So you have some math you got to figure out. Basically, you got a few points. You have to figure out this point, that point. That point's given. This one you have to calculate. Looks like that one you have to calculate. That one you have to calculate, and that one you have to calculate. Okay, so you go from there, figure out your numbers. One thing to keep in mind, a lot of people, because this is a 625 radius, they want to take this number minus 625. That's not the case. You got this little triangle here. That's 625. Remember the definition of a radius? Any point from a center out to a circle is 625, and it's not a straight across line. So now all of a sudden you have this triangle, and you want to basically solve for that, which would be your z. Okay, so I'll just kind of leave you with that little note so you can figure that out. Same thing with that point over there. Now, no matter which direction you start from, you're going to want to, before you get to this point, you want to come over here. And if you get to this point, you want to come over here. Now, it doesn't matter, like I said, if we're going, if your start point's here, you're going to come down to there. If your start point's over here, you're going to come down on that side. So let's just assume we're going to start over here. Okay? So that means that our start point has to be up over here. Now, when we get to this point, we want to turn on our cutter comp. Okay? Let's just call this 3 point something. Okay? I don't know what it is. It's going to be 3 point something. Okay? So my point over here, now that's in the z. So my z might want to be negative 2.9. I want to be off my part. And my x, if I'm at 2.05 or 2.0, I might want to be at 2.05. Okay, that's my cutter comp move to get to that point. So that means my rapid point wants to be probably, my z is going to be the same. X may be 2.15. Okay, that's going to be my start point. So I turn my cutter comp on. Then I get to that point, and I go through and I cut everything. And once again, I want to cut off. Okay, so if that's 6.7, my X again is going to be 2.05. My Z is going to be negative 6.9 maybe. Okay, and then I'm going to do a G40 off to my 2.15. And that will complete that can cycle. But remember, you want to have your cutter comp on and off when you're not actually cutting your part. So keep that in mind when you're doing that type 2 roughing. Okay, so that leaves us with just our grooves and our threads. The groove, nothing really special. You got 3 grooves. That one up here, up here. What you do want to make sure you do, obviously, when you go to this groove to this groove, make sure you wrap it up, but also change your RPMs. Okay, you're going basically from a 1-inch groove up to almost a 2-inch groove, so your RPM should almost be cut in half. The feed rate can still stay at 3 thousandths, but make sure you change your RPMs for that. And the thread, you've cut a number of them by now. Nothing real special on that. Just a 1/8 to 12. And make sure when you do your type 1 that you're doing your mean dimension for the major diameter. So you establish that right off the bat. Okay. So that kind of covers that part. So if you have any questions, please come and see me. Otherwise, good luck.